Hello, love from beautiful Sedona. So I had a really interesting thing happen this week, and it's a subject I've been thinking about a lot and just over the years, and it's just really called to me right now to do this video on this topic. And I'm calling this video Positive Thinking and Keeping It Real. What happened with my client is that she's a new mom, about a year into mothering, and she kept finding herself in these mothering groups in just different situations where it felt like everybody was getting it. And she's just, in these different situations where everyone was just like, oh, it's great. It's the best year of my life. I'm loving it. Dreams are coming true. And when I kept feeling into these groups, the energy around it, and I'm not saying that I don't, I have clients and I feel into new mom groups, and sometimes people really are just loving it. It's all coming together and it's great. But these groups that she was talking about, I wasn't really feeling that this was what was actually happening. I felt that they were tired, they were exhausted, they were clinging onto a programming, hoping that if they said this enough times, that it actually would be dreams coming true, but it wasn't really. And it made me want to address something that I see happening in spiritual communities. I see a glitch in our programming, which is essential to identify. Now, just because you have a negative thought does not mean you're being negative. Oh, right? What I see is that people sometimes so desperate in their attempts to create something that is not here that they cling on to positive thinking to the degree where it becomes a whole bunch of bull crap. Now, having said that, if you're acting as if, and it's kind of jumping you and putting you into a different timeline, and you're actually getting into those states of feeling better, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a tension, is a state of stress that I feel into people's fields when they're like, everything's great, everything's totally fine. Because if I say this long enough, then maybe it'll actually be the truth, because I have no idea what's going on and I totally hate my life. And oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to be really positive. Yes, right? The tricky part of that is that we're not identifying shadow. We're not keeping it real. We're not actually utilizing the opportunity that negative situations present to get us more clear on what it is that we want instead. So what do we do with our negative thoughts? What do we do when we are in a crappy situation? Or we're in the first year of motherhood, for example, and we really want to create something new and we're just feeling poopy, right? First, we keep it real. We keep it real, and maybe you don't keep it real to everybody, but you keep it real to yourself. You let yourself be like, okay, I'm not liking what's happening right now. I'm in a negative state. That's just what is. I'm not going to let that dominate my life forever. I get that. But I'm going to first take the first step of being real with that, and that's okay. Yesterday morning I woke up and I was just didn't get a good sleep and was just in a rough place. My mom wasn't really available. My friend we were going to hang out. She wasn't available. And so I was like, okay, no one's around. I'm by myself, saying all these things and just being like, I want to get to a better feeling space. So I'm going to keep it real. And I did my little hike. And I just spent like 20 or 30 minutes. And I really highly suggest this because we need this so desperately. We need coaches. Obviously, that's what I do. That's my passion. I have coaches which I love and adore and keep me on track. We need the opportunity to decompress. So whether if you have someone there, wonderful. But sometimes we don't, like yesterday. And I went on this hike and I just spent like 20 or 30 minutes just letting it rip, letting all that negativity out. Being okay that was the truth in the moment. Not that it's comfortable, not that I enjoyed it, right? But it did feel a lot better just to kind of like vent. And I talked for like 20 or 30 minutes. And man, I came back off that hike feeling so much better. So, when you give yourself the opportunity and permission that it's okay to have negative things in your life, that's just living. That's what happens. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you did something wrong or, it's just the moment. It's energy coming up that needs to be released and decompressed. And just like with this new mom, I saw her shift and I've seen her couple posts on Facebook where she's just keeping it real. I was like, go girl. Because when you step into that vulnerability, Brene Brown, thank you so much. Check out her work. It's really cool. When you step into the power of just keeping it real with what's happening, then you're able to address a negative truth and shift it, move it out of your field, bring it in the self-care, bring in the compassion, the love, whatever you need to then come in to a natural state of positive feeling. Because if we're living a life where we feel that we're always supposed to be in this positive mind frame, it's a little tricky. it's a little tricky, right? Because then what happens with all that crap? It's going to come out, and yeah. We don't want to do that, right? It's just not healthy. It's not sustainable. We want to keep it real with what's actually going on, letting ourselves be loving, compassionate. Let that be the jumping off point for greater expansion and growth. And then from that place, we get clearer and we just naturally elevate into a higher state of mind and frequency. I remember just in the beginning, over 10 years ago, when I used to drive around to different clients and do intuitive yoga, and I still remember I had my 14-year-old, Honda Acura that my grandmother had given me, and I pulled up, to this big mansion, and there was a part of me in the beginning that was like, oh, I'm embarrassed, and, like, this is my 14-year-old car, and this, whatever. And I came up to this client that I really admired, just she had created this life that she loved and just was such an inspirational person to me in so many ways. And she came down, and I always kind of brought the props in. And this time I was like, oh, she's going to see my car, And I was feeling vulnerable and kind of in a little bit of a negative state, right? And I remember thinking, well, there's nothing else I can do here, This is my car. And it became this bonding thing. She's like, oh, Honda Acura, I love those cars. That was the first car I had when I moved to LA, and I would drive to all the movie sets and go to my auditions, and that was like the beginning time of, and it was like this beautiful like moment, of keeping it real, being real with what was happening on, and in that moment of just being real, letting it be this point of connection with someone else, because that's what keeping it real does. Of course we need boundaries. You might want to keep it real with every single person, go into long disclosures with your postmistress, but giving yourself permission, even with yourself, and in the time and spaces when it's necessary, when you keep it real, we naturally are able to move into easier, more elevated frequencies that help us just cleanse our field and do the self-care work that we need on our path to expansion, evolution, and growth. So here's 2. I'm setting the intention that this video allows you greater permission in your own living to be more authentic, to be more real with what is happening, and to let that be the bridge for greater intimacy, vulnerability, and connection. Letting that bring such peace and joy and comfort to everyone watching this video and beyond. Lots of love. Bye-bye.